everyone and welcome. It's Shanna. So glad you're here today. Now we're going to be creating this fun card today. And I've got some new products from Spellbinders. This is part of the Sandy MacIver Ferguson die set. These are the add-ons. This is the summer embellishment. There are 21 cutting dies. There's a little mustache for the gnome and some sunglasses for the gnome, and just a lot of fun, beachy, summery scene dies. In addition to that, we've got the surfboard, which are 2 cutting dies, and you can embellish it with that. And then I've also got in this die keeper, I have the palm tree die, and there are 4 cutting dies to it, and it creates a palm tree that you can use the surfboard and the palm tree with your Fergus and, you know, set up a little display. But today I'm just going to be working with the summer embellishments accessories, and we're not going to be stitching. We are going to be creating a card with cardstock. I have die cut out several of the little pieces here, and I've got them in my little tray, and I am just planning to create a card with that. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a background scene. I'm just going to bring in my sticky mat and an A2 size white panel, and we're going to bring in some distress oxides, and we're just going to lay some ink down. So I have got speckled egg, and I've got my big Spellbinder blending brush. Love these. They're just so easy to blend with. And I'm just going to lay some blue color down here. What I'm doing is just kind of creating a beachy looking scene, water scene. And I'm just going to get some down. Now I don't need to cover this whole A2 size panel because I'm going to use a die and cut it down. In fact, I'll bring the die in just to get a feel for the areas that I need to cover. So I'm just eyeballing it, and we're going to get some more color laid down on here. And so my second color that I'm going to bring in is sponge sugar. Just going to grab my pink ink blending brush, easy for me to say, and just put a little bit of sponge sugar down there and just next to the water. And then my third color is dried marigold, and I'm just going to bring in some of that and just blend in ever so lightly. And it's not even a real full blend, it's just a real light blend, just kind of airy looking and super fun. So that is it for our ink blending. So I'm going to get my sticky mat and I'm going to pull this panel off, and then we're going to bring our die in. And so the die set that I've chosen to use with this is the Color Block Accent Arches dies, and I'm going to use, I don't know, maybe a third from the smallest on this and die cut it out. And then we've got the layer for our focal point, and I think it's really, really pretty. So I'm also going to bring in, I've die cut out another layer with a couple different blues. These are all Spellbinders cardstock, Colorwell cardstock, and I'm just going to layer those up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our little scene on here, and so I'm just going to start assembling all my little bits and pieces and figuring out how I want to get them to lay down on my card. Now as I was assembling this, it occurred to me that we are going to be on vacation while actually myself and my daughter have our birthdays, and I have not planned a card for her. And so it seems we're going to be at the beach, so it seems like this will be a very good card for her with what I have in mind. So it just occurred to me as I was making this, and I thought we need to gear this toward making a birthday card. So as soon as I get my glue bottle to work, I'm going to start assembling my little sandcastle. So you've got 3 little windows for the sandcastle, the main part of it. And I'm going to get each one of those laid down on here. And then we've got an extra little add-on to our sandcastle that I'll bring in and kind of make it like the front door. So we'll have 3 little windows in our sandcastle, and then we'll have our little front door, and it'll be super cute. These little pieces are darling, and they'll look cute on Fergus on a summer jacket. But when I saw this die set, I knew that I wanted to make a card with it. I just thought that the images were just so cute and small, and that you could make the cutest little scene and just pull it all together. So that was what my intention was to do with this. So this is the other little, kind of like if you took sand with your bucket and you just dumped one down, this is what you would get. We're going to use this for the door to our sandcastle. And we'll just layer this up on the other piece and create just a 3D little looking sandcastle. I'm going to bring in a foam square and lay it down on there just to create that 3D effect. And we'll just put a little foam square on there, and then we'll get it attached to the rest of our sandcastle. I think it's super sweet. I love the ink blended panel. I think it's going to come together nicely. So we've got our sandcastle. Next, I'm going to bring in my sun, and it is a 2-layer sun, and I'm just going to layer it up. Now, I am using all of Spellbinders cardstock except for the craft for the sandcastle, and I just used the scraps out of my bin. This is a small enough die set that you ought to be able to dig through your scrap bin and just use it up, and that's what I did here. So I've got a couple of colors. I'm thinking carrot and maybe beeswax is what I'm using for my sun. And then I've got my pink flamingo here, and I've got a little black, the legs and the little beak, and we're just going to get them attached and just put a little dot of glue on there. There's a nice little circle spot, and then it kind of lines up with the bottom of the flamingo so that you know exactly how to position it. And then you've got the snout, and it actually has a piece on it that will back the eye of the penguin as well. So you'll just line that up to where it covers up the eye of the penguin, and then you've got your beak, and it's a very simple assembly. So we'll give that a press, and if I can hold on to it, I'll straighten it up and give you a quick look at it. Trying to get it lined up just where I want it. I'm going to use the tweezers to just move it down just slightly. There we go. So now we've got our pink flamingo. Now there is a wing layer for this, and I'll grab the lighter layer and lay it down, but then I've got another layer in the same color as the flamingo's body, and I'll actually layer that on top of it because I just decided I didn't like the lighter pink on there. It just didn't suit me. So I gave that a press. Now I'm going to grab my little flip-flops. I've got some little two-tone teal flip-flops. If I can get them out of this tray, I'm having a hard time grabbing a hold of them. And we will get them assembled and get them as part of our scene. So you've got these teeny tiny little pieces that are the straps that go between the toe on your flip-flop. And I'm just going to pull them together and get them laid down on my flip-flop. So this is when you really need your tweezers for all these little tiny pieces. I'm just going to pick up the strappy pieces and throw a little glue on them and then get them laid down on both of my flip-flops. So cute. I think this card really came together. And what's interesting is my embossing folder of the month club came yesterday, and I haven't had a chance to work with it, and I think it'll work nicely with this. So I will bring in the embossing folder of the month, which is called Island Style. And I'm like, this is very suitable for my little beachy island card I've got going here. So I'm going to get my straps to my other little sandal laid down on there. I've got some black pieces in my tray that are for the sunglasses, but I'm not using the sunglasses on today's video. So here I'm going to bring in the little flag to the sandcastle, and I'm going to get it attached. And again, I just use my scrap pieces, so I just use whatever I had in there that would fit. And so I'm just going to get this laid down on there and give it a pinch, and I'm going to hold it with my tweezers to make sure that it sticks. And then we'll have our little flag on our sandcastle. I'm just going to lay it down and let it glue up. We've also got a palm tree. And here's where I grabbed the other wing to the flamingo in the same color. And I was testing it out. I'm like, yes, I like that better. So I'm going to just glue it on top of the other one. And it's going to give our wings some dimension because it's laying on another layer. So that'll be nice. And then I've got a couple of stars down in here. One I'm going to call a starfish, and the other's just a regular star. This one has some holes in it. So I'm just punching out the little pieces out of the holes on it, and we're going to have a little star. And then it has the water edge. So I'm just going to use this to create waves on the front area of our card and just make it look like we've kind of got some waves going. So here's my palm tree trunk, and I'm just going to put a little glue on there. It kind of angles so that it's tilted, and I'm just going to lay my palm on there. And we've got most of our elements assembled. Now we just need to start figuring out where we want them to go. Now here's my little wave piece that I just die cut out from the tiniest strip of Breeze, I think, cardstock that I had. And I'm just going to figure out how can I cut this down with this color block panel and make it fit. So I'm just going to grab my little Tim Holtz scissors and I'm just going to come in beside that and just try and snip it off. And I'm trying to very carefully do it and line up the edges, so it takes me a minute to do that. So we'll just snip this one and then we'll come across, line it up, and we'll snip the other. And I'm just making it kind of the size of the panel, but not the tabs that are on the color black arch. I'm just going to give it, I'm trying to figure out how I can get in there and get a straight line on it. And then I decide, I kind of have an idea, I'm just going to pop it up, or pick it up and cut it off there. And I've got a little mark on here. Okay, I'm back. I had to pause the video. We had our little planning party for our upcoming vacation where we were booking all of the details and everything, and everybody had come into the house and we were getting everything booked. And then we went out to dinner. So I've got all 3 of the big boys, and my husband just took them on a golf cart ride. So I'm able to come back in and get this voiceover finished, and we're going to get all these little parts laid down on here. So I'm just kind of dry fitting it, trying to figure out where I want everything to go, and then we're going to get it all laid down and we'll start building our card. So they took off on the golf cart, and I took a picture of them, my husband and the 3 grandsons. The youngest grandson is at home because he's going to have that surgery tomorrow. So anywho, so I've got a few minutes of quiet before they come back, and it'll be rowdy having 3 young boys in the house. But anyway, it should be fun. So I'm going to get some glue laid down here on my little wave, and we'll get it added to this color block panel that we've got here. And it's just going to make a nice little wave on there. It probably wasn't necessary to add the wave because I did the ink blending and we've got the effect of the water there. But I thought since it was one of the dies that came with this particular set, I'd go ahead and use it. So I'm going to get my castle laid down on there and figure out where my little palm tree and my little flamingo goes. And then we'll get everything glued up and it'll all come together. Oh, and also I had mentioned that I didn't think I had a card ready for my daughter's birthday, but then my husband, I mentioned to him, and he said, yes, you do. You made one already. And it was on his dresser, and he showed it to me. So I had forgotten. I make so many cards. If you can imagine, you know, doing a video every day, and sometimes I make multiples. I can't really keep track of what I have done. Usually when I have them earmarked for somebody in particular, I will put them on my husband's dresser, and because usually we just will give money for gifts. And so I'll put him up there, and then he'll put the money in it for whatever birthday gift or whatever. So I had already put that card for my daughter on there, and it was specific to her because I had put her age on it. So anyway, I'm glad that he pointed that out to me. But this is a super cute card, and it would be super fun for the vacation birthday party, but it'll be nice to have it in my stash. So I'm just going to get this little pink flamingo laid down on here, just blotting some of that glue off so maybe it won't, you know, seep through. And then we'll just give it a little press. And we're going to have another layer underneath there, so I'm not worried if, you know, if the palm tree's hanging off a little bit or the pink flamingo is hanging off. Now I've got my little flip-flops, and it's inevitably when we're at the beach, somebody has left their flip-flops or whatever on the beach, so I thought it'd be cute to just lay them aside here. We usually, when we get to the beach, we usually wind up, and we go to the beach quite a bit, we usually wind up finding some leftover toys and things that kids have left behind, and then the kids can play with them because it never fails. There's always something laying on the beach that somebody has forgotten. So anyway, I've got my little starfish here, and I'm just going to position it, just trying to figure out where I want it. I'm just going to glue it up right there. I'm not going to use the other star. I'm just going to lay this one on there. We'll just give it a little press. Get my little tray out of the way. Now here I have got another blue panel, and I am going to layer this up and just get it centered on here. And this is going to be our focal element. So for this panel, I'm just going to bring in some foam squares, and we'll just pop it up a little bit. It's not, these aren't very dimensional. It'll give it a little bit of a lift, but not too much that it could still be mailed. So we'll get these laid down on here. These just happen to be some of my black square ones that I have. Generally, I would reserve those for a darker card, but they're not going to show. They're more toward the middle of this panel, so it's not going to be a problem. And we'll just get 6 of those on there. We'll get the release papers pulled off, and we'll get this laid down. And I think it turned out really cute. I just wanted to show, you know, that you could use that die set for just a card with just cardstock rather than, you know, necessarily having to stitch it. I really wasn't in the mood to do a bunch of stitching. And if I needed to create a new jacket for all of these elements for my Fergus, it would take a bit of time to do some stitching. So here's where I'm bringing in the embossing folder of the month, and I've not used it yet because it just came in the mail. And it's the island style, and it's got some really fun tiki-looking elements on it, and I thought it would be cute for this beachy card. So I'm just going to take it and run to my die cutting machine and roll it through there, and now we've got our base panel. Lots of texture. And then this panel is just going to lay right down on it, and I think it looks really cute. I love the blue. So I've got my card base. I've already got it cut and scored. I just need to fold it. I was looking for my bone folder, but couldn't find it, so I'll wind up just using my fingers to give it a good press. Still looking for it. I'm sure it probably fell down in my little container, and I just need to dig down and get it, but we'll just give that a little press, and we're going to get this laid down on there, and then we'll get our card finished. So I told my husband, I said, now take a little bit of a ride because I've got a voiceover to finish. And if you go for a little bit of a ride, I can probably get it finished. I'm pretty sure that with the 3 of the boys, I would not have a quiet moment to finish it up unless I stayed up past their bedtime, because I'm sure with all 3 of them, it's going to be pretty rowdy. So, as it should be with boys. So this is how it's going to lay on here. We'll just glue it up and lay it down on there. We've already got the little bit of dimension on the other layer. And so just get plenty of glue on there because we've got, you know, some raised areas from our embossed panel. Just give it a little press. And there we go. I think it turned out really cute. Now I've got this little container. It's like a kind of like a Tupperware. It's not Tupperware, but it's, you know, one of those containers. And I put my birthday sentiments in it. And I found one that says a time to celebrate. And I thought that would look really nice with it. I've also got Simon Hurley's Happy Birthday laying there. And I was thinking about putting it on the inside of the card. There's a little bit of a black stamping there that I just used my white gel pen to cover up, fixed it just fine, and I'm going to get it laid down on here. I'll bring in a little bit of foam because it's going to overhang some layers, and I want to make sure that I've got it secure so that it's not, you know, that it doesn't get bent on my card. So we'll just lay this little square down on there. We'll put some glue on the rest of it, and then we'll get it laid down on our card base. I'm just testing it to make sure I got enough foam on there. So after we did all of our little trip planning, we went and had the Mexican food, and then we went and picked up the youngest, or I guess the younger of the 3 kids that I have tonight, and brought him, and they were all out in the driveway riding their scooters, but Pap had promised them a golf cart ride, and so we kind of had to change our clothes because it's a little bit cooler here in Indiana, and so they were going to need a little bit warmer clothes to ride at night on the golf cart. So I'm just going to give that a little press, and I'm contemplating putting that happy birthday on the inside of the card, and so I'll kind of test it out. And then I'm like, I'm not sure I like the differences in the 2 fonts, and so I'll choose to just leave that off, give my sentiment a press, and then we're going to call this card finished. And I think it turned out super cute with just those tiny little elements, just very fun. So I hope you like it. If you did, consider hitting that like button. And if you've not yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love to have you subscribe. So thanks for watching. And here's a couple more videos you might like to watch.